sometimes because my own mind's been my worst enemy. And it's taken quite a while to be able to get that back. But I've realized a couple of lessons. And the lessons are that, you know, the most paralyzing thing in our life is ultimately. And when we think about all aspects within our life, we think about all the things it is that we are potentially fearful of until eventually we start becoming so scared of absolutely everything. And ultimately, what we should realize and know is that, we don't live in an evil reality. We live in a very happy, positive reality with happy, positive people. It's just, there's a lot of sadness and grief around, but at the same time, there's a lot of happiness within people. Such insane times of questioning absolutely everything. But the number one thing that's worked for me is just coming straight back to God and having faith and questioning everything with my mind in order to realize what it is that I truly know within my heart. And what it is that I know within my heart is that, things are good. Like, this is a good world, good life, good family. But, ultimately we have certain thoughts within our own mind that can plague us, get in the way of our own prosperity within our own spirit and our own life. So the number one battle that anyone would be facing or going through is ultimately fear. And so we go through that fear, and, the worst thing that could ever affect you over and above everything is ultimately fear. And fear does all sorts of things, but having trust and faith does a lot of things as well. And so, the best way to combat fear is with faith. And I've had to learn that in so many excruciating lessons, one lesson after the next. And I'm so grateful, to be quite honest with you, to realize that I'm alive, I have a family. I'm so grateful for them. So absolutely grateful for my family. I'm grateful for humanity. And so I need to spend a lot of time working on myself and try to provide inspiration where it is that I can. And the inspiration really is just to let people know that no matter how much your fear tries to paralyze you, and no matter how strange the world seems, it's not strange at all. It is obviously a bit strange, but our own imagination and mind makes things seem strange and fearful. Sometimes we have some voices in our head, we all do, and those voices more often than not tell us all sorts of awful things, and ultimately just get us to live in fear. And when you're dealing with a situation like that, the number one thing you can do is just ultimately have faith, to realize that everything's absolutely okay and will always be okay. I wondered if the reality is somehow a dream reality, because sometimes it seems quite strange to me. And I believe we determine whether we live in our own nightmare or our own fantasy. But it comes down to what it is that we actually truly believe in and who it is we believe in. And, number one thing I gotta let you know is that you gotta learn to have trust and faith in yourself. As much trust and faith as you can have in God, you gotta try to have trust and faith in yourself as well. Because if you don't trust yourself and you don't have faith in yourself and goodness in your life, you're gonna interpret your life in all sorts of strange ways that are really gonna bother and affect you. And when you do that, you're gonna start living in fear. It ultimately has nothing to do with you. See, our imagination is powerful, but our imagination can either destroy us or it can either provide us our own salvation. And so that's what needs to happen. We need to learn how to structure and guide our imagination to only imagine the most positive, amazing, beautiful, blessed things within our lives and the lives of others. And I'm so grateful for that I can actually begin to learn to see reality through a lens of faith, through a lens of love, through a lens of, unconditional love. To be honest with you, that's a big thing I've been having to learn. Because, like, if you can't unconditionally love others, then you can't unconditionally love yourself. And if you really want to love yourself, you got to stop letting all the fearful stuff that's going through your head and all those horrible, nasty voices in your head get in the way of you basically believing that everything's okay and that everything will be okay. People are not evil. I think people are just confused. They're obviously not evil. We live in a world full of so much goodness, and this goodness is everywhere. But we're not going to be able to see it if we keep letting that negative voice within our own mind tell us all sorts of crazy stuff. I'm going to be honest with you. I, developed a case of schizophrenia, to be quite honest with you. Because when you keep listening to those voices, those negative voices and those negative imaginings of trying to explain the world, explain life, the more you listen to them, the louder they get. So, you need to be in charge of those voices in your mind. You need to be in charge of your mind at all costs. And all you need to do is like constantly keep telling yourself the most beautiful, amazing stuff. I know it sounds cliche, but I promise you right now, your thoughts creating your reality. It's creating how you interpret everything, how you listen to everything, and how you listen to everyone, and what you hear and what you don't hear. There's so many times in my life where I imagined the worst, and the worst didn't happen, even though it really seemed like it was going to happen. It did not happen. And so I've learned from that so many times that, when the mind can get you to believe all sorts of things, it can scare the daylights out of you. All you have to do is have faith and trust in yourself, and faith and trust in God, which is really important because, having faith and trust in God is what's going to help you have faith and trust in yourself, have faith and trust in your life, faith and trust in your family, your whole story, how you got here, where you came from, and who you are, and who you can become. But if we keep telling ourselves all these horrible things about ourselves and keep believing them, they're just going to play out in our mind and play out in our reality and play out in how it is we interpret and perceive reality. So the number one thing we got to learn is how to look at ourselves through an extremely positive lens. Because if you don't look at yourself through an extremely positive lens, you're going to start imagining all sorts of stuff about yourself, and those negative voices are going to confirm that for you. We've got to heal ourselves. We've got to heal ourselves by telling ourselves the best things about ourselves, and therefore also the best things about other people in order to see things for what it is that they truly are. I imagine all sorts of fearful, horrible stuff. And your imagination is crazy, man. Like, if you keep imagining stuff and you believe it, eventually it will seep into your reality. But just because it seeps into your reality does not mean it's true. And then you might need to learn how to just be completely, totally positive and have absolute faith no matter what. And these are the huge lessons it is that I'm actually happening to learn right now. Lessons to relax, lessons to be able to speak to myself in a better way, lessons to be able to see the goodness within myself and to be able to see the goodness within other people. And not to imagine all the most frightful, horrible things that I don't have proof for, to be quite frankly honest with you. And so, it's best to, try be within our own bubble of positivity so that we can make that bubble positive, so that we can spread that positivity around us. And all we need to do is have love and faith in our heart, love and faith towards ourselves, our family, towards God, and towards reality, no matter, how fearful our imagination seems to portray reality. It really isn't that case at all. So somehow I think we're in a dream reality, because when we are super duper fearful, what actually ends up happening is we end up believing all those fears, and then those fears seem to provide evidence and proof towards us throughout the world, and then you can slip further and further and further into more increased states of fear. And so the best thing to do is ultimately to have absolute faith and positivity in everyone, including yourself, no matter what, as well as the world, because ultimately, one way or another, we are affecting and influencing the world through the way in which it is that we choose to see it and perceive it. But the way in which it is we choose to see and perceive the world is dependent upon the way in which it is we choose to perceive ourselves and others, because we can hear things and we can hear whispers in the wind and certain strange things being said, and sometimes reality seems super duper strange. And that's why, to me, it seems like a dream sometimes. And I wondered about the nature of reality, and it ultimately comes down to consciousness, to be quite frankly honest with you. And realizing that we're not alone, we have each other, even if it doesn't feel like it. I try my best to send love out to the world because I fear for the world, but I'm having to learn how to actually not fear the world and how to not fear other people, and actually have faith, love, and trust in other people, which ultimately is really totally dependent upon having love, trust, and faith in myself. And that love and trust and faith in myself helps with having love, trust, and faith in God. I can see my imagination, and when I think extremely fearful things, I see extremely fearful imaginings, and you really begin to wonder about if it's real or not, and it makes you question absolutely everything. But we need to be able to look at all the good within our life in order to realize that it's just our imagination at the end of the day, and that we should really do everything within our ability and power to ensure that it never gets the better of us, in order to believe all these awful, horrible things that fear, false evidence appearing real in our own mind would happen to tell us. I actually ended up having a mental disorder because of fear, and my greatest fear was speaking about it to my family and everyone. And the biggest thing with these voices is that you're realizing that your own voice, in so many ways, it's almost like my mind fractured. And my mind fractured, and all sorts of weird stuff started happening. Started hearing weird voices telling me weird things. And I started to realize, like, the more it was dependent upon my fear. And the less fear I have, the less I hear these voices. And if I do happen to hear these voices, I change the narrative in my own mind in order to actually steer the direction of conversation within my own mind. But the one thing I realized, these voices are like projecting the deepest fears within my own subconscious, fears I didn't even know I had. Which is why I've stopped listening to conspiracy theories these days, because it's really not good for our mental health, to be quite frankly honest with you. Because if you go ahead and start believing all this stuff without any proof, then ultimately what ends up happening is that you start destroying your own mind. You start destroying your own mind. And what I learned to do is begin to learn to start each day with love and appreciation. Love and appreciation and faith and supplication towards God and my own self, because I am grateful for the fact that I exist. We can't hate ourselves, and we really shouldn't hate ourselves. And I think a lot of people hate themselves for the wrong reasons. I think we come up with all sorts of reasons in our head as to why it is that we should hate ourselves. I'm really proud and happy with my mom, because she does a lot to actually reimagine herself in some really positive, amazing eyes. And what she's doing for me is helping me realize that I have absolutely every reason to be joyous and faithful. And as I say, you got to start off each day with positivity. Like, if your fear is getting the better of you, you have to treat that with positivity, as much positivity as possible. And you have to drill it into your head, even if you are hearing voices like I happen to be now. Those voices go away once you just keep treating everything with absolute faith and positivity. So I just feel like, it felt like a curse, but it feels like a blessing, because it's teaching me, like, the power of my thoughts, the power of my imagination, and the fact that I have the ability to be able to see the goodness in everyone else, including myself. And I'm able to see how that actually changes within my life and life around me. And so what I do is I send love, and when I send love around, it looks like everyone's in a better mood. And I imagine other people being happy. And what you also got to do is you got to imagine yourself being happy too, which is a hard thing for people to do, because a lot of people are not used to being happy. And so because we're not used to being happy, we can't imagine ourselves being happy. And so, your mood and everyone's mood is like influenced and affected by what it is you expect. Can you actually owe it to yourself in order to love yourself and to trust yourself through the eyes of God, and to believe that you're deserving of happiness, that you're deserving of love, and that you're deserving of amazing blessings within your entire life? And that's what you got to do. You got to tell yourself that every day. You cannot keep telling yourself, I'm a horrible person, I'm this and that. If you do that, you're just going to go down a fear and create some crazy narrative within your own mind, where eventually these voices in your head are going to grow stronger and stronger and stronger, and formulate within your mind crazy stuff. And if you listen to them, well, you're going to believe them. So you need to go back into your heart and say, this is fear, false evidence appearing real. No matter how real it seems, it's not real. And we need to get rid of that fear. But if you believe you're a horrible, terrible person, you're gonna have more reasons to be more fearful, because you're gonna believe that there's all these weird, horrible things happening, and these weird, horrible things are gonna give you more reasons to feel more fear within your own mind. And the number one thing I developed fear of was such other people, because I was fearful of my own self, because I had such an absolutely terrible perspective of myself, and ultimately I speak to myself in ways I really actually shouldn't speak to myself, and nobody should. And I can only imagine that other people do the same thing. So this whole experience has taught me to be a lot more loving, patient, and persevering through, the many trials and tribulations that our own reality and mind may present towards us. And as I'm doing this, things are getting better. I'm feeling more peace. The fears going away. The voices become softer, and they don't always haunt me, no matter how compelling or convincing it is that they may seem. So, we got to believe that we are the best, most amazing person we are, who you are. You got to be able to believe that, you know. You've got to tell yourself, you've got to force yourself to believe that you owe it to yourself in order to see the goodness within yourself, to see that, you're not some evil, horrible, decrepit being. No matter how much your own mind may happen to tell you that, it's absolutely not true, and you do not deserve to tell yourself that at all. You do not deserve to tell yourself that at all. You should really feel as though you deserve to tell yourself a lot more positive and happy and inspiring things, and do everything in your power and ability to be able to go ahead and believe them. And so you got to realize that these voices and these fears and imaginings are all in your head. No matter how convincing or compelling they may be, no matter how much your lens of reality is distorted within your own mind. The good news is that, we can, with God, with faith, with love from our loved ones, and most importantly, love towards yourself, because you have to love yourself. If you don't love yourself, you're going to destroy yourself. I used to think self-love was rubbish, but it really isn't. Like, you have to actually learn how to love yourself. Because if you don't learn how to love yourself, you're just doing yourself the most awful, awful thing. And you're fueling this awful imagination within your own mind, because you're going to start, if you don't love yourself, you're going to come up with all these reasons why you don't deserve anything good in life, why you don't deserve to be happy. And it's going to make it harder for you to imagine a good life, harder for you to imagine being happy. And, with hearing these voices, I had to realize that ultimately that my voice is just manifesting in different ways. And I'm going to come out and say it, it's been a very scary, terrible, tough time, but everything these voices said was wrong, which is a great part, I'm really happy about that. And sometimes they just have these reactions and weird feelings. It's almost like Tourette's, maybe humans have a form of Tourette's when these weird, ugly thoughts come into our mind, We don't really know where it is that they come from, and they cause disruptions in our own mind and disruptions within our own life. And what you got to be able to do is you got to be able to look at the best in yourself and look at the best in everyone, but it's got to start with you, And it's also with other people simultaneously, I'm blessed beyond comprehension. I have a beautiful, amazing family. And I'm really grateful and happy for that family. Because in times of fear, what it is that I happen to do is basically imagine all sorts of stuff, read things, and come up with all sorts of stuff in my own mind as to why it is that I'm stuck within this terrible place of my own mind. And that's all it is, If you can see the beauty in your own mind, I believe you can begin to see the beauty in everyone else around you, and the beauty in everything around you, and the beauty in life. Fear is absolutely paralyzing, but when our imagination allows that fear to feed into us without question, without questioning any of that fear that we're feeding into our own head, we're doing ourselves an absolute and total disservice. We really shouldn't do that at all. And I still feel like I have this sort of feeling of Tourette's, where my brain's been a little bit destroyed and distorted, and I'm hearing things that I shouldn't be hearing. But in order to heal it, what it is that I'm having to do is to pray a lot, and I love listening to the Bible. I love listening to prayer, because it it's words of faith and encouragement that are helping me get out of seemingly never-ending states of fear. And I believe we all feel each other's fear on one level or another. So, by getting rid of your own fear, you're going to be doing a great service towards those you love around you. And, sometimes people say strange stuff, and we say those strange things. We don't really understand those strange things, but, if you allow your imagination to imagine the worst case scenario of why you're hearing strange stuff or looking into strange things in reality, then, ultimately that's going to go ahead and destroy your own mind. So, in the greatest times of fear, what I've been doing is listening to, messages of faith and encouragement within my own mind. And realizing that I'm protected, and that my family's protected, and that I'm okay, and that, heaven exists, and that life is good, and that, you have to encourage yourself. You have to be positive. You have to give that to yourself, because other people can only give it to you so much, but it comes down to yourself. My mom said that. She was like, I can do my best to help you, but ultimately you got to save yourself. And it's true, because I'm in my own head. I'm in my own head. I'm the one who has to learn how to bypass all these fears within my own mind and in my own imagination. Because if you allow your imagination to rule you, you will pivot yourself into peril, and that peril will only be a byproduct of your mind. It will not actually be real. And then you'll be able to see that, okay, these super fearful things I've been imagining are not actually happening, and are not actually happening, are not real. And so that's what we've got to do. We've got to be able to work with our mind to believe everything it is that we can believe in order to structure our mind, structure the way we see our life, structure the way we see the lives of others around us with as much love, faith, hope, and positivity as possible. Otherwise, if that fear gets the better of you, it's just going to end up distorting the way in which it is that you look at everyone and everything. And so it's really important that we're able to do that, you know? And sometimes you have bad dreams, sometimes you have good dreams, but they're just dreams, you know, and we shouldn't let them get to our head too much unless they're really good dreams. And I think that's your spirit or God telling you that, you know, there's something good in store for you. And you might struggle to believe that because you may have an absolutely terrible perspective of yourself, and you may imagine and expect all these horrible, terrible things towards yourself that quite frankly and quite simply are just not true. So you owe that to yourself. I owe that to myself, you know. We owe it to ourselves to love ourselves. And I do weird things sometimes because I got a weird mind, but I do things in order to try to calm myself down and stay calm, you know. Throughout all this time since 2020, created so much fear within my mind, and created fearful, paralyzing situations in my own life, in my own mind, that I'm still sort of going through the motions of now and having to learn to apply absolute faith and positivity in order to actually be able to heal that, which fortunately enough is actually working. And so all I can actually do is be able to actually share that with people. I believe that like somehow or another, this whole situation is given humanity like mass formation psychosis, me so much, you know. And you got to have love towards yourself no matter what, ultimately. No matter where you've been, what you think you've done, you have to have love for yourself, and you have to be able to go ahead and forgive yourself no matter what. And then as you do that, you'll notice that your life will start becoming better. You know, one of the most beautiful, amazing things in the Bible is that, you know, first seek the kingdom of heaven, which is, I didn't really understand until I landed up in such paralyzing states of fear where I was imagining like hell on earth. And it's like, how do you get a hell on earth if you're not prepared to believe in heaven on earth or heaven? You know, how are you actually able to introduce that into your imagination, introduce that into your mind, body, and spirit if you're not going to believe in such beautiful things? You know, so it's so beautiful to see that in the Bible, because it's beautiful to actually give guidance on the fact that if you're in a paralyzing state of fear, do your best to imagine the most heavenly state in reality possible and believe in it with all your heart. And as you do that, you're going to guide your imagination towards an extremely positive direction. And you're going to be guiding those subtle voices within your own mind, which somehow become quite loud, convincing, compelling, and overwhelming, to quiet down and to start believing in the same things you believe until eventually they become quiet. But, you know, how else are you going to do that if you're not prepared to be able to tell yourself the most beautiful, amazing, positive things ever? And what I do is you got to love yourself. You know, I hated myself for a long time. I don't know why. You know, we end up hating ourselves as humans because maybe not enough positive reinforcement within our own life. But that's not true, because I'm sure many people have experienced beautiful smiles from strangers, positivity, love, and happiness from strangers. So we need to be able to actually go ahead and remember that, you know. We need to be able to go ahead and we need to be able to remember that as much as possible. And love ourselves no matter what. Sorry, give me a sec. It's literally like I've got some nervousness disorder, and it's manifesting in me touching my face and my nose in different ways. I've gone through such paralyzing states of fear that I feel like my nervous system is like shut down. And the best thing I can do is to literally, the only thing that's saving me and helping me right now is being absolutely positive. And I think that 2020 did that for everyone. It basically made everyone go through extreme states of paralyzing fear ultimately. And I don't want to go through that anymore, because I don't believe I deserve that, and I don't believe any other people deserve that either. I believe that we deserve to be easy on ourselves, and we deserve to be as loving, kind, and soft towards ourselves as possible. And so I believe, you know, we can get through this. I believe that, you know, it may have been some terrible, scary times before, but, you know, some people handle it better than others. I'm so proud of my family. I'm so proud of everyone, because they're handling it so much more better than I am. And it's so amazing to actually have those positive, inspiring people around me in order to remind me that, you know, love does exist, love is around me. Because sometimes, you know, we question that love, and the reason as to why it is we may be questioning that love is because Maybe we just don't believe we actually deserve love. So when we see love around us, we don't actually interpret it correctly, even though that love may present itself in all sorts of strange and weird and wonderful ways. But reality doesn't have to be so strange and weird. It can be absolutely loving. And we must learn to, as I say, trust yourself, trust your own mind, but do not trust the fear and the negativity in your own mind, even if it manifests itself in the form of voices. I believe through all this fear it is we've gone through, people have ultimately gone through mass formation psychosis, which has ultimately caused people to be in paralyzing fear, which is what it is that we ultimately went through. And so we need to be able to reimagine our minds, and I believe in reimagining our minds, we're actually learning how to reimagine the world, reimagine our family, ourselves, because ultimately your imagination determines how you interpret your family. Your family may have been giving you love your whole life, but you're unable to see it because maybe it wasn't in the way in which it is that you expected. And then if you feed into that more and more, you start telling yourself absolutely awful, horrible things, telling yourself somehow that there was no love when there was love the whole time. And I really just totally believe it comes down to how much it is we're able to love ourselves, and that love in ourselves determines how we look at ourselves. And when we look at ourselves so we're loving and everyone loves us, then you'll notice people's disposition towards you change. Even your own voice within your own mind will begin to change. So, I've learned so many lessons here. I've learned that it's I have absolutely every single reason to believe in the most amazing, faithful, beautiful things, and to see love around me for what it is, and to not believe that it's fake or it's unreal. Because the truth is, it is real. It's very real. Okay, people don't present love to you and kindness towards you if it's not real, you know. And you'll know who does that for you. It's the ones that look out for you, the ones that help you, no matter what. And so I really hope that if anyone's struggling with any fear, crippling depression, crippling fear, just pray, just listen to the Bible, just listen to whatever beautiful stuff you can, do everything you can, positive affirmations, anything you can to train and change your perspective of yourself. Because you have to do that. You have to learn how to have the most beautiful, amazing, and loving perspective of yourself. You do. And you owe it to yourself. And maybe you haven't had reason to do that in your life before, but maybe that's because you're not realizing all the love that was around you and all the loving people that were around you. So I'm happy I'm going through this, because I believe maybe I can actually use this to be able to share a happy, positive message to people who are going through some stuff on their own, who need some sort of inspiration within their own mind. And I know I need it, so I'm pretty sure everyone else does. They need reasons to be happy, loving, positive, and faithful no matter what. I'm so grateful that I'm okay. I'm so grateful for my family's okay, and that's what I got to do. You got to train yourself. You got to put in the steps in order to be able to basically begin to see the world as the beautiful place in which it is, and the people for the beautiful people in which it is that they are. If you don't do that, the social distancing and all that sort of stuff, it made us fearful of other people, made us fearful of our life and our reality, and made us fearful of absolutely everything. Made us fearful of the common cold. So I hear these voices now, but as convincing and compelling as they are, I just gotta not believe in them at all. And my sister gave me that advice, So my number one fear was letting people know what the hell was going through my head, because I couldn't tell if it was real or not. And eventually it got so bad, so what I did was I started speaking to my family, and I told them, hey, this is what I'm going through, and it was so awesome to see how they all love me and support me, and actually give me really amazing advice. And I've learned some stuff about my own mind, but sometimes we don't trust what it is we're learning in our own life because we don't trust ourselves. So you have to learn to be able to trust yourself, because you are your own greatest gift, your own ability to perceive, your own ability to be aware. You have to trust yourself, but don't trust yourself too much when it comes down to believing in fear. If there's any fearful stuff that comes in your mind, do absolutely everything to get rid of it. You do not deserve to put yourself through paralyzing fear. And to be quite frankly honest with you, I'd never wish this upon anyone. Okay? Sometimes I doubt myself, but I'm having to learn how to trust myself. Sometimes we doubt our own words. That's why we get nervous to speak sometimes, because we doubt what it is we're saying. We doubt whether it is we believe in what it is we're saying or not. But that's why I say you got to have faith, guys. Faith in God, faith in yourself, faith in absolutely everyone. Otherwise, if we don't, your fear is going to override the daylights out of you. And it's going to turn you into someone you're not, someone you shouldn't be, someone living in fear for no reason, other than the many multiple reasons with no proof in your own mind, no matter how much that proof may present itself to you in your own reality. So I'm grateful for everything, even the fear ultimately, because it's teaching me to have more faith and positivity than ever. It's actually teaching me how to stop looking at myself through such a horrible lens and perspective. I love you, Jesse, been listening while working, didn't even realize we were live. But thank you, I love you too, Paige. So I'm going through a lot of stuff right now, and I feel like I can learn to heal it. I can learn to get better. So everyone on Patreon, I just want to let you know this is why I've been a little bit inactive, because I've been going through such fearful stuff with my own mind, to the point that it's paralyzing me, and I've had to lie in bed quite a lot in order to just get myself to feel better and shut out these voices in my own mind telling me all this awful stuff. And the number one thing I have to use is love. So Paige, I do love you. I'm so grateful that people out there like you exist, that I can actually share love with, because it reminds me over and over again that this isn't some terrible, horrible universe. This is a universe of people with hearts like me, have the ability to feel and have love. But the world in which it is we've been provided has really done a lot of things to get in the way of that love in which it is that we happen to feel within our own mind, heart, and spirit. So I want you to have faith in yourself, faith in love, faith in humanity, faith in other people. I'm saying this to myself. I need to learn to have faith in humanity as much as possible. Because if you can't have faith in humanity, you cannot have faith in yourself. If you cannot have faith in yourself, you cannot have faith in humanity. And the same applies to God, If you can't have faith in God, you struggle to have faith in yourself. You struggle to have faith in humanity. So I always keep coming back to that. And I do these videos because they help me, I believe, express what I'm going through. And sometimes in really awful ways vent my frustration. Exactly, being on this journey with you has helped me so much in just not flip and dream. And I know that life's going to be way more different. I just have this feeling, and I always had. And that feeling is what's kept me going, even in times of absolutely paralyzing fear. And I've had to realize, this fear is not real, dude. Imagining all this awful stuff in my mind, absolutely awful, terrible things. And that's why I've had to stop watching conspiracy videos and all this crap, because, I don't have any proof for it. And I owe it to myself to be good within myself. Mom also gave me amazing advice like that. She's like, in terms of human trafficking and stuff, rather than just have faith and trust in people to be able to help that and sort that out, and not put all that burden upon myself. Because if you put all the burden of the world upon yourself and you can't handle it, you're just going to end up destroying yourself. And what help is that going to do to have another destroyed person on this earth, So if you're going through fear, have faith. And have faith in yourself. Have faith in each other. And feel that love within your own mind no matter what. And that's what we've got to do. Have faith no matter what. And so I give love towards everyone. Even when reality gets strange, we doubt the love. We doubt love around us. We doubt love within ourselves. We doubt that there's people with love within their hearts, within the world. But I think everyone's just going through the same thing we're going through, which is fear. And so that's how it is, Sometimes we feel like we're in a cage of our own heart, and we're in a cage of our own mind, and we don't feel free to love ourselves, free to love each other, because we're scared of ourselves, scared of each other, scared of reality, understandably. But we have to be able to overcome that, not bypass it, but work with it and overcome it. So that's what it is ultimately we need to do, no matter what. Have faith and love in each other, have faith and love in ourselves, no matter what. So it's helped me have faith in humanity, have faith in myself, have faith in everyone. And realize we're sovereign beings with sovereign minds. It's really awesome. And I went through a very horrible, dark stage in my life because of fear. When we feel fear, we become intimidating towards ourselves and others, but it's only because we're in fear. And so you need to write things down. Write how you imagine your reality every single day if you have to. Imagine all the most beautiful, happy things in your life, all the most beautiful, happy times you've experienced within your own life. And so that's what we got to do, have faith and love and positivity no matter what. In ourselves, most importantly, in others, most importantly, and in God. That's the rest of my message because I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable. I'm going to go lie down and pray because that's how much paralyzing fear I've been going through. And it's really seeming to help, cycling through fear and faith within my own mind. And everything's getting better. And I love myself, and the same way I'm telling myself that I love myself, you guys need to do the same thing. You gotta learn to love yourself, because if you end up hating yourself, you're gonna end up hating everyone else, and that's not good, because there's no reason to hate anyone. Hate is just a way we exhaust our own energy and come up with all these fearful imaginings within our own mind. So that's what it is we need to do. Have absolute love, patience, and faith with ourselves, and love, patience, and faith with other people. So that's the end of this video. I hope that this helps. It's definitely helping me to be able to share this with you. And I'm sending you lots of love, and I hope everything's okay. Love you guys. Bye-bye.